Alright everybody, today we've got a big video planned. A lot of work going on here today in the Gourami tank. I've had enough of the green. If you watch my videos, if you're familiar with my tanks, you know that I don't mind having patina in the tank. I don't mind the all-flux growing in there. I like the algal growth. I like a very natural look in a tank. This tank is too much. And it grows too fast. I have issues with this tank. The reason I have issues with this tank is the lighting on it. I have very, very inexpensive LEDs on here. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. I can see the tail of my red-tailed loach, and he doesn't come out very often, so I was hoping maybe we might get a look at him. But I am now seeing the rest of the fish, and it turns out it was just one of my clown loaches who has a red tail also. So false alarm, never mind. Back to the point. The lighting I have on here is very inadequate, and by inadequate I don't mean dim or not a lot of lumens. One of these days I really am going to shoot a video where I talk about lights and lighting and the different ways we measure lighting. It's very complicated and it's very confusing, and different terminologies mean different things, and depending on what you're talking about, you may be considering lux, lumen, par. There's a lot of different things that are used to describe light and how light works. In this case, what I have going on with the tank is an issue with what is known as par. Par is photosynthetically active radiation. And that's just a fancy way of saying it's the radiation spectrum that plants utilize the most of. Now, par does fall into, technically, all wavelengths of visible light are considered par. But within that spectrum, there are two spikes. There are two peak elevated points where the plants are, they're called peak absorption levels. And one is in the red spectrum, or down on the red end of the spectrum, and there is another peak absorption spike up in the blue end of the spectrum. All of the light that's in the middle, all of the reds, all of the greens and the yellows that fall in the middle of that spectrum can be utilized and need to be utilized to a very small extent by most plants. The primitive plants, however, the plants that we think of as being nuisance type plants, and this includes a cyanobacteria, because cyanobacteria is technically a bacteria, but it is a very primitive, even for bacteria, and it is as much of a plant as it is a bacteria. It still needs photosynthesis and light to grow and to get its energy. So you have to think about the cyanobacteria as though it were an algae. In fact, it's often called blue-green algae or blue-green slime algae. So what happens is these plants, these organisms, have evolved to utilize these spectrums of light that other plants do not, or I guess I should say that the other way around, being that these are the more primitive. The newer plants have evolved to utilize the spectrums of light that are not gobbled up by the algae and the cyanobacteria. The lights that I have on here are very low quality LED, and the way an LED produces light is by blending different color spectrums to produce the overall color that it wants. The same way you would mix blue and green, or red and blue to get green. That's exactly what's going on with the different light spectrums. I hope I said those colors right. I'm not even sure if I got those color mixes right or not. But you get the point at any rate, is you mix colors together to get a third color. The same thing is going on with your light. And a higher quality LED will utilize more of the reds and the blues to produce a white light. I know that sounds a little weird, but that's how it works. These cheaper LEDs that are not made for growing plants under, these are simply outdoor floodlights. These are made for lighting up a parking lot or lighting up the entranceway to your basement or something like that. They don't need to be a real high quality light. Again, by quality, I don't mean brightness or anything like that. I'm talking about the actual usable spectrums of light that plants can utilize the most of. These are not a very good quality light in that regard. They were never designed to grow plants. So what I'm doing is I'm flooding my tank with greens and yellows, and that is causing the algae and the cyanobacteria to just flourish. I'm just giving them all the light they need, while I'm simultaneously giving my other plants a minimum of the amount of light they need. So as this video progresses and as this day progresses, I'm going to be in here doing a lot of work. I'm going to get a lot of that stuff cleaned out of there. But I have gone out today and I have purchased 2 of these all glass hoods. So what I'm going to do is put the 2 glass hoods on top. I'm going to remove the LEDs altogether. I really would like to keep LEDs on this tank. I like the way the LEDs give you that shimmer. There is a reason for that. I will explain that at some point in another video, but not this one. I can't afford the good high quality LEDs. We're probably talking over $200 for the amount of LED lighting I would need for a tank this size to get a quality LED. You can buy lower grade LEDs for much less than that, but I'm going to run into the same problem. They might not be as bad as this because these are really low quality LEDs. They were never meant for this at all. But I do have a moderately priced LED on another tank, and I'm already seeing excessive algal growth in that tank. I was very disappointed with that. But I'm getting sidetracked on a different tank. What I'm doing to this tank today is we're putting those all glass hoods on, and then we are putting a regular old shop lamp on top. That's all I've got. It's the right length. I will drape something over top of it so you don't even see the shop lamp. But what it's going to do is it's going to make this an extremely brightly lit tank afterwards. I've done this before. I can never really decide whether I want to keep a shop lamp on there or not. Sometimes I will take one bulb out and only run 1 tube rather than 2. So we'll see. We're going to do some experimenting on that once we get that far. So let me stop rambling and get on with trying to get something done in this tank today, and we will shoot some video as we go. I'm going to just kind of piece this together as we go along, so we'll see what this turns into. At the very least, you will get a before and after of what this tank looks like now, and then what it's going to look like probably tomorrow once I've got it all cleaned up and everything's all settled back down and all the bubbles are off the glass and everything. So you'll get a really, this will probably be my most dramatic before and after ever. So sit tight and let's see where this video takes us. Alright everybody, I'm trying to pull the hoods off and lights and everything off now and get started, but before I do that I want to show you what I'm talking about, and I can't do that once I've taken the lights off. So we're going to look at that first, and then I'm going to get moving a little further along. You can kind of see where some of the water sprite is growing up and out of the back. I did have a piece of wood covering that so that the gouramis and the other fish would not jump out. So like I said, I'm beginning the process, but I want to show you this first. Now, hopefully this will be able to come out. I tried it with my better camera, but I just couldn't get it to focus. Can you see all that green fuzzy looking stuff that just grows all over everything that's right up against the surface here? I really honestly don't know whether that is a form of cyanobacteria or that is some sort of algae, but I have a lot of it in this tank. It's the stuff you see growing all over everything, and if you will look at it on the surface of that leaf right there, it looks pretty. It's all nice and flowing in the current. The gouramis eat it. They keep it cropped short like a lawn, but it clearly just grows very, very vigorously in this tank. And that is the main source of my discontent with this tank, is just that green all over everything. So as this video progresses, I am going to do some maintenance in there. We're going to get my little homemade scraper out. I'll show you that, and I'll show you me in there cleaning the glass a little bit and scraping as we go. I am going to probably pull a lot of this, if not all of this water sprite out of here. I do have more of it in another tank that I can just easily replace this and thereby remove a lot of that algal growth that's in here. So sit tight, we will continue on, and the next step is going to be actually just getting these hoods and lights and everything completely off the top and just opening the top up, and hopefully I won't have any escapees while I'm doing that. I might actually even lower the water level quite a bit while the hoods are off like that, and then we won't have to worry about it. But we're going to get in there and we're going to do some serious cleaning, so sit tight and we will see how that goes. Alright, we've got the hoods off. I've got some temporary lighting propped up in an attempt to give me enough light to see what I'm doing when I get in there. I know you can't really see what you're doing, but hopefully we'll be able to once we get in there a little better. So this gives you a little better look at what I got going on at the surface underneath the hood. That's some pretty funky stuff. This right here is a little bit of the original water sprite that was in there that I have in most of my tanks. This is the lace leaf. You can see the big difference in it. This almost looks like parsley. But that's what it looks like once it starts growing up and out of the water. And that's the kind of stuff you get. You know, there's a nice little fiddlehead. So this is all just one massive chunk, and you can see all that nasty green growing all over that. So, well, might as well just pull this out since we got it right here. And you can see that shoot right there. That's a completely new plant that's growing off of this big thing. So that big old nasty chunk is going right in the trash can. And now I'm going to get in there and do a little more. But you can see the that same green growth is on this. Now that I'm seeing it above water, it definitely looks more like cyanobacteria than regular algae. And the way it feels slimy and it's coming off in sheets, that's definitely cyanobacteria. Sorry about that, I didn't realize I was showing you the wall while I was doing that. And then here is another one of these water lotus or water lily shoots that's getting too tall, so I will go ahead and trim that back while I'm in there. So all in all, we've got a lot of progress happening here today, so sit tight and I will continue on. Alright everybody, we are coming down the home stretch. Not quite ready to do the reveal yet, but this is what we're dealing with so far. I've got the shop lamp on top. The video unfortunately did not turn out the way I was hoping it would. I was a little more worried about getting the tank taken care of than I was about shooting the video. So we're not going to get a whole lot of the actual scrubbing and maintenance. And I really didn't do a whole lot anyway, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Right now, we are looking at a temporary cover over what is nothing more than a very unattractive shop lamp. I've got two T8 bulbs in here, and they are 6500K. I just went out and bought them today, so they are brand new, good, high quality, name brand tubes, so they should do just fine. So get ready for the ugliness. Yeah, see, that's not very pretty. Unfortunately, that's what I've got to work with at the moment, and it'll do just fine on the inside. So as long as I keep this covered up with something, it'll look fine on the outside as well. We won't even really notice it's up there. So I will be getting something more adequate to cover this up. The big reveal we're about to see on the before and after is not as dramatic as I thought. There's a little bit of the reason why. You can see all that green under there. I did put a significant amount of the lace leaf water sprite from one of my other tanks in here, so that's actually creating quite a bit of shade, as you can kind of see on the bottom edge there as your little teaser. So sit tight, we'll show you the before, and then a moment after that we will go ahead and see what the tank looks like now, and we'll wrap it up with any closing thoughts. Alright everybody, there's your after. Now this is what I normally get to enjoy when I look at my Gourami tank. I know I normally show you video of this when I put food in there just because I want to show you the activity of the fish and that sort of thing. In this case, I'm really enjoying the new look of the tank. I really like the lights that is on there now. And so I thought I would give you an opportunity to see what I get to enjoy. Now we are getting a little more activity up top than we normally would because of the Freshwater Sprite that I put in there. It's got all those nice fresh rootlets and all of that nice fresh tender growth. So the Gouramis and the Loaches alike are up there just having a field day, nibbling on everything. So I've really been enjoying the last hour or so as I've let everything sort of settle down and, you know, let the bubbles settle out of the tank and everything. So I think this is the way it's going to stay. I really do like it. The reason I didn't get in there and do a ton of scrubbing and all of that sort of thing is because I did indeed find out that we have cyanobacteria in here and not just plain old algae. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do a treatment on this tank. It's been quite a long time, probably 6 or 8 months since I've done any kind of treatment on this tank, knowing that I had the bad lights on there. I just didn't see any point in it. So now that I've got adequate lighting on there, it's not fantastic, but it's adequate. I'm going to try to keep the nutrient levels a little lower in this tank, and we're going to see if we can't keep on top of the cyanobacteria. But I need to get on top of it before we can keep on top of it. So I am going to go ahead and treat it over the next few days. Hopefully I'll get some stuff ordered. We'll get it in the tank pretty soon. I'll be shooting some video with some bubbles in there from an air stone. And we will get a little bit of cyanobacteria treatment. Sorry, I got distracted by my snakeskin gourami up there flashing across the spray bar. They do that fairly frequently. That's actually not a sign of any kind of irritation or anything. They actually rub up against the surface of things and it breaks algae and offlux loose, and they will then turn around and go back and feed off of the place they just rubbed up against. So at any rate, that's the reason I didn't get in there and do a ton of work. I did wipe the glass down. I did wipe the back glass down a little bit since I had the water level so low. I wiped the sides down a fair amount. And, excuse me, I trimmed the water lotus, or the, sorry, I keep calling it water lotus, the red tiger lotus, or the water lily. I trimmed some of the longer, more troublesome shoots down from that. If you notice, there's some java up on the woodwork on the far right top corner. That was actually growing in the bottom, in the back, and you couldn't really even see it. It was actually sort of preventing the water from circulating and getting to my filter intake, so I moved that around. Just a little bit of general tidying up and some maintenance in there. That's all it was really needed. Once we get the treatment for the cyanobacteria and we do all of that, we'll do another big water change, and then after that I think the tank is just going to tick over nice and smooth, and I will finally have sorted out my issues. I think the final key was getting those lower quality lights off of there and getting these higher quality lights on. Now, on a final thought, I will say that it sort of annoys me that it's a shop light rather than, you know, a nice fixture. But the reality is the fixture is simply something that you can plug the tubes into and have them light up. I have high quality tubes on there. The fixture doesn't really matter. That's only sort of an aesthetic thing. And the fact that I have them covered up, it's honestly not even an aesthetic thing. It's just I know that underneath that cloth is a shop lamp, and that kind of bugs me. So a little bit of time will go on. I'll get used to the idea that it's up there. I really like the way the tank looks. I'd appreciate your input. Tell me what you think. And then we'll go from there. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I know this wasn't the video I was expecting it to be. I hope you got something out of it, or at least got some entertainment value out of it. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and do so. That way you don't miss any of these. You never know what you're going to get with me. I honestly never know what a video is going to end up with half the time I get started on them. So I hope you enjoyed again, and I thank you for watching. Again, if you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and do so, and I will see you real soon on the next one.